what did you observe during Cam Newton's return to practice?
Ryan, the main observation is that number one is still QB1 for now, and of course number one being Cam Newton. Everyone wanted to see how Bill Belichick was going to handle this, because if he wanted to turn it over to Mac Jones, this was sort of a clean way to do it. Mac was coming off that nice practice on Wednesday. Cam had missed the prior 3 practices, but it was Cam in this practice yesterday, the first quarterback through all the drills. He led a touchdown drive, and then interestingly, Ryan, after practice, it looked like Cam was out on the field with all his teammates around him. Maybe he had something to say to them at that time, a reminder of his presence back on the field.
Very interesting. I wonder what he had to say. Now, how did Mac Jones look at practice, and what should we expect to see of Jones this weekend in the preseason finale?
Well, the first thing that Mac told us after practice was that yesterday wasn't as good of a day for him and the offense as it was the day before. I had him 11 of 22 passing. He had an interception, Ryan. He said the Giants' safeties were doing some different things to challenge him. He also had some nice throws mixed in there, and he did work with the first unit at times, which is notable. As for the preseason finale, I don't believe the Patriots have made a determination as to how they'll handle that with Cam and Mac, but I would expect Mac specifically to play in the game.
Okay, it's very interesting that he's still got those first team snaps, maybe an indication that this is not over in terms of who is going to be the starter there. Mike Reiss, thank you so much. Great reporting all week on this. Really appreciate it. Let's bring in our guys, Rob, RC, Sacha, Graz. Everybody's here. I love this feeling. Nink, I'll start with you because you were at Patriots practice this week too. What did you learn from watching Mac Jones?
I was impressed. I came away very impressed. And from everything that I've heard coming out of training camp, this camp in general, that Mac has been so impressive at number one, coming in and understanding the offense, just literally coming in, learning the whole offense. And we saw that in 2 preseason games where he was actually running a no-huddle offense. And as a quarterback, I don't think there's another test out there more challenging than running a 2-minute no-huddle offense. It's very hard. You have to get every single person aligned. You have to make sure that everyone understands what's going on, and he was able to do that. So he passed that test. A couple instances with Mac that really impressed me, and it started with 7-on-7. He was throwing a ball that was a little bit low to the flat receiver. And when he did that, he smacked his hands together, he hit himself in the head, and you could tell that he was upset with that throw. Later on in that same series, he threw a perfect pass low and away to Hunter Henry on the goal line. And the second that he threw the ball, he didn't do anything except for run straight to Hunter Henry and fix his shoulder pad, fix the jersey. It was all folded up underneath his pad, which as a player that happens a lot, and it's annoying. You can't get it. So when I see that, little stuff, just little things, those are the intangibles that a leader, that a quarterback does. He's always the first one out. You see him run up the stairs, run out to the field. He's warming up for about 45 minutes. And I was listening to the radio. Scott Zolak was talking about, as a quarterback, you really have to warm yourself up. You got to get ready to go. And every single practice, Mac Jones has been the first one out there, and he's warming up for about 40 minutes. He's getting ready to go. Yesterday, the last guy to walk up the stairs was Cam Newton. Didn't pick up a football. Didn't do anything. Didn't throw one pass before practice, which he said was very, very odd. And he's been doing that all camp. And, you know, I just think that Mac Jones, as a rookie, has been very impressive. And he's impressed a lot of people. He impressed me.
Yeah, especially with his professionalism. Now, Sacho, what do you think Belichick should do at starting quarterback?
Yeah, I think that Bill Belichick should start Cam Newton. I think that's what he's been saying all along. I think that Cam Newton has proven that even though Mac Jones looks good and has all the intangibles, Cam Newton has the intangibles as well. He's gone to the Super Bowl. He's a proven winner, a proven champion, all the way back from even when he was in college. And so you could tell that Bill Belichick has an affinity towards Cam Newton. They built this team around him. They got guys in the offseason, Jonnu Smith, Hunter Henry. They're building their defense around Cam Newton. And so, yes, Mac Jones may have some intangibles now, but I wonder what happens when the lights come on. We know this is preseason. All these stats that people are hearing, 11 for 20 and 35 for 40 in a preseason practice. Those lights get a lot brighter when the real games start.
Now, Graz, you have your ear to the ground with the Patriots as well as most of the league. What effect do you think Cam's absence has on this quarterback battle?
Well, I think it's definitely a strong point in favor of Mac Jones. And when you think about why Cam was away from the team this week, it's he's being treated like an unvaccinated player. He hasn't said whether he's vaccinated, but based on the fact that he had to stay away 5 days and what we know about the rules as they pertain to vaccinated versus unvaccinated players, Cam is not vaccinated. What that means is, at any point this season, he could be identified as a close contact and have to stay away from the team for 5 days. Bill Belichick could wake up on a Sunday morning, having practiced with Cam as his starter all week, and find out he's not going to be able to play in the game. That level of, unreliability, and it's not a comment on the player, but my point is, like, you can't be sure you're going to have him. That has to work in the favor of the other guy if it's a close competition. So I think the fact that Cam was away this week plays into this in ways that maybe not everybody wants to talk about, but are going to be a factor in decision-making for the Patriots and other teams all year.
Yeah, and just quick pushback on that, though, because Ryan Tannehill, who people say is vaccinated, he's out for 10 days as well. And so
we don't know that.
Well, Mike Vrabel is a coach who is out for as well. So there are breakthrough cases as well that people need to understand that even though when you're making these decisions, you may say, well, this player is vaccinated or not, but you don't know, especially with COVID, you don't know who's going to be available or not available. And so I think when it comes to Bill Belichick and deciding who's going to be the starting quarterback, people talk about, availability, sure, but it's also dependability. Who will be dependable? And I think that Cam Newton is dependable. It's proven for a decade.
It just shows you how tight this quarterback battle seems. And
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.